The observation deck of the Stellar Harmony hummed quietly as Commander Marcus Fletcher watched Earth grow larger on the screens. This was his first real command, his first chance to represent humanity to the stars. After months of preparation, after humanity's first successful faster-than-light test had caught the attention of alien civilizations, the moment had finally arrived. "Sir, the alien council ships are appearing," reported Lieutenant Emma Grant from her station. "4 big ships. They're sending us greeting messages." Marcus smiled. Earth's governments had worked together for this, and he had been chosen to speak for all of humanity. "Open a channel. Let's say hello properly." The screen flickered and an alien face appeared. The creature called himself High Diplomat Theron. He was tall and thin, with skin that shifted between blue and purple colors. His 3 eyes blinked one at a time as he spoke through the translation device. "Greetings, primitive species of Earth," Theron said in a voice that sounded almost insulting. "The Galactic Council welcomes you to the community of space travelers. Your world has been labeled as a Class 3 normal planet, suitable for joining us. We come peacefully to help your development." Marcus frowned at the word primitive, but kept smiling. "We appreciate your help, High Diplomat. Earth looks forward to peaceful friendship with the Council." What neither of them knew was that someone else had been listening and watching. Deep in the outer solar system, 16 warships of the Krell hegemony hid in the shadow of Jupiter. Admiral Vex studied the scans of both human and alien Council ships with hungry interest. The Krell had been watching this area for months, waiting for the Council to make contact. Earth, according to Krell information, was an easy target. A world of weak creatures who had only just learned to build simple space engines. Their weapons were basic guns and explosives. Their ships were just metal boxes with engines attached. The Council wanted to help them, but the Krell had different plans. "All ships," Vex commanded, his jaw parts clicking with satisfaction. "Attack formation. We take Earth before the Council can protect them. Kill the diplomats. Enslave the humans. Quick and simple." The Krell fleet suddenly appeared and jumped toward Earth. Lieutenant Emma's console erupted with warning sounds. "Sir. Multiple ships appearing. 16 unknown vessels with weapons active, coming straight at us." Marcus spun around. "Red alert. Shields up. Get the Council on." The first energy blast hit the Stellar Harmony before Emma could finish speaking. The ship shook violently. Sparks flew from broken systems. On the screen, Theron's image flickered as his ships came under attack too. "They're shooting everyone," Emma shouted. "Krell ships. It's a Krell war fleet." The Krell. Marcus had read the reports. A military empire that saw weaker species as slaves and resources. And now they were here, attacking both humanity and the Council at the same time. "All human defense forces, launch everything," Marcus ordered. "Contact all Earth governments, everyone. We're under attack." On Earth's surface, air raid sirens screamed across every continent. Military bases that had been quiet for decades roared back to life. Fighter jets rose into the skies. Missile batteries turned toward space. Ground troops mobilized everywhere. The Krell expected panic. They expected people running away. They expected surrender messages. What they got was completely different. High Diplomat Theron's flagship was burning. His shields were failing. 3 of his 4 ships were already destroyed and drifting. In his culture of careful diplomacy and measured responses, this level of violence was impossible to understand. "Emergency message to Earth ships." Theron gasped as his crew tried to evacuate. "Retreat. Save yourselves. The Krell are too strong." But on his sensors he saw something that made no sense. The human ships weren't running away. They were speeding up. Directly toward the Krell fleet. The Stellar Harmony, with failing shields and holes in its hull, fired every weapon it had. Rail guns, missiles, even a mining laser. None of it should work against Krell armor, but they fired anyway. "Sir, we need to fall back," Emma urged. "We can't win this fight." Marcus's jaw tightened. "No retreat. We hold this position. Earth needs time to prepare." "But sir." "That's an order, Lieutenant." Emma swallowed hard, then nodded. Her fingers flew across her console. "Yes, sir. All weapons firing. Targeting the lead Krell ship." Theron watched in horror and amazement as more human ships joined the battle. Cargo ships. Mining vessels. Even a luxury tourist yacht. Nothing that should be in a military fight. All of them flying straight into impossible odds. "Why aren't they running?" his officer whispered. Theron didn't have an answer. The Council's survey had classified humans as standard Class 3 inhabitants. Careful, peaceful, preferring to negotiate rather than fight. These humans were fighting like something else entirely. Like creatures that had never learned to give up. A Krell plasma torpedo streaked toward a human ship. The ship's defense guns blazed, destroying the torpedo barely 50 meters away. Then the ship rammed straight into the Krell cruiser that had fired it. By the ancestors, Theron breathed. They're completely insane. On Earth, the first Krell assault shuttles screamed through the atmosphere, heading for major cities. The plan was simple: destroy human leadership, eliminate their military command, force surrender within hours. The lead shuttle aimed for New York City. As it dropped over Manhattan, ground-to-air missiles rose to meet it. The Krell pilot easily avoided them, human tracking systems were laughably basic, and began his attack. Then a fighter jet appeared from nowhere and fired at close range. The Krell shuttle's shields held easily, but the human jet didn't fly away. It kept firing, kept chasing even as the shuttle's guns tore into it. The jet was hit. Was going down. And instead of the pilot ejecting to safety, he turned the burning aircraft directly into the shuttle's engine. The shuttle crashed into the river. Across the planet, similar scenes happened. Krell soldiers who expected easy victories found themselves fighting an enemy that simply refused to quit. Admiral Vex studied the tactical display with growing worry. The planned quick raid had turned into something far more complicated. His fleet had taken real losses against what should have been a weak opponent. "Give me the analysis," he demanded. His science officer brought up holographic displays. "Sir, the initial information was completely wrong. Earth is not a Class 3 world. The first scans missed critical data." "Explain." "The planet's gravity is stronger than standard. The atmosphere includes 21% oxygen. That's a powerful chemical that would be toxic to most council species. The tiny life forms alone." The science officer's jaw parts clicked nervously. "Sir, Earth's bacteria would be classified as biological weapons on any civilized world." Vex's eyes narrowed. "And the inhabitants?" "The humans evolved as persistence hunters. They don't have natural armor or claws. Instead, they evolved to outlast their prey. They can run for hours without stopping. They can function in temperature ranges that would kill most species. Their healing ability is remarkable. And their mental profile." The officer paused. "They don't have a proper surrender instinct, sir." "Impossible. The biological scans are correct. When threatened, human stress chemicals increase their physical abilities. Pain tolerance goes up. Reaction time gets faster. They've turned their own fear response into a weapon." In the Amazon rainforest, Staff Sergeant William Cooper crouched in the thick plants with his squad of 8 Marines. They had been in position for 72 hours straight, waiting for the Krell forces to come. "Sarge, you need to sleep," Private Lucy Adams whispered. "You haven't slept in 3 days." "Neither have you," William pointed out. "Yeah, but I'm 22. You're old." William almost smiled. He was 36. Most species in the galaxy needed regular rest periods. The Krell needed 8 hours of sleep every day. Humans could function for days when necessary. It wasn't pleasant, but they could do it. "Contact," whispered Corporal James Wright from his position. "Krell patrol. 12 enemies. Heavy armor." William raised his fist, signaling his squad to hold position. Through his scope, he watched the Krell soldiers moving through the jungle. They were well-trained and disciplined. But they were struggling with the environment. Earth's Amazon rainforest was hot, humid, and filled with aggressive life. The Krell were sweating visibly through their armor. One of them stumbled, his breathing labored. The humidity is getting to them, William realized. Their suits aren't designed for this. For humans, this was just another jungle. Uncomfortable, sure, but survivable. For the Krell, evolved on a dry, mild world, this was torture. The Krell patrol spread out, searching for the human resistance that had been attacking their supply lines. They expected to find scared civilians or maybe a few desperate soldiers. What they found was a squad of Earth's Marine Corps who had been training for jungle warfare for decades. William fired first. His railgun round punched through Krell armor easily. His squad opened fire simultaneously, using the three-dimensional terrain perfectly. From the trees, from the ground, from hidden positions the Krell scanners had missed. The Krell returned fire, but their weapons were designed for open warfare. In the dense jungle, their energy blasts scattered and lost power. The human solid bullet weapons had no such problem. In 30 seconds it was over. "Collect their weapons," William ordered. "Take anything useful. Move out before their backup arrives." As they melted back into the jungle, Lucy looked at her sergeant. "How long can we keep this up?" "As long as it takes," William said. This is our home. They're the invaders. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, High Diplomat Theron and the surviving crew of his flagship sheltered in an underwater human facility. The base was a research station, quickly converted to a refuge for the wounded alien crew. Dr. Hannah Price, a human medic, was treating Theron's injuries. She worked quickly, her hands steady as she sealed an energy burn on his arm. "The painkiller will work shortly," Hannah said. Theron watched her in amazement and horror. "You're cutting into my flesh." "It's called surgery," Hannah explained patiently. "The burn damaged the tissue underneath. I have to remove the dead cells and help healing." "But you're using knives. You're cutting living tissue. How do your people heal injuries?" "Special chambers. Biofoam. We never cut." Hannah paused, understanding the cultural difference. "I'm sorry if this seems cruel, but it works." Theron looked at the other human medical staff. They were injecting alien crew members with what they called antibiotics, controlled doses of bacterial poisons designed to fight infection. They were using radiation to clean equipment. They were doing things that would be considered torture on any council world. And it was saving lives. "Your world," Theron said quietly. "What kind of place requires such brutal medicine?" Hannah looked out the window at the ocean. Even here, 200 meters down, Earth life thrived. Sharks passed in the distance. The pressure alone would crush most council species. "A harsh one," Hannah admitted. "But it's our home. And it made us strong." Theron had been writing his report to the council throughout his recovery. Now, with human help, he was finally able to send it through the emergency system. Emergency reclassification request. Earth, Sol System. Previous designation Class 3 is incorrect. Based on observed data and human physical capabilities, recommend immediate upgrade to Class 15 Deathworld status. Repeat, Class 15 Deathworld. The message streaked into faster-than-light space, heading for Council headquarters 300 light-years away. Class 15. There were only 47 such worlds in the entire known galaxy. Planets so hostile that even studying them required special equipment and extensive safety measures. Worlds where the dominant life had to evolve extreme abilities just to survive. The Council's response came back within hours. Reclassification confirmed. Earth is now designated Class 15 Deathworld. All Council vessels are advised to use extreme caution. Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. Earth, a tiny world on the edge of known space, had just been revealed as one of the most dangerous inhabited planets in the galaxy. And the Krell hegemony had just invaded it. The news of Earth's reclassification rippled across the Galactic Council like a shockwave. In the council chambers on the capital world of Valona Prime, diplomats from 200 species watched the live feeds from Earth with a mixture of horror and fascination. Representative Alice Morgan of Earth stood before them, the first human to address the full council. She had arrived on a quickly repaired ship, escorted by what remained of the alien diplomatic fleet. Her presence was unprecedented because Earth wasn't even officially a member species yet. But the circumstances were unprecedented too. "Honored representatives," Alice began, her voice carrying through the translation device to every species present. "3 weeks ago, the Krell hegemony attacked my world without warning. They attacked your diplomatic mission. They tried to enslave humanity. They failed." A murmur ran through the assembly. The feeds showed scenes from Earth with Krell forces pinned down in cities, jungles, deserts, and mountains. The invasion that should have taken days had ground to a complete stalemate. "We didn't ask for this war," Alice continued. "We didn't ask to be a Class 15 Deathworld. We simply are. And now we ask the Council, will you help us drive the invaders from our home? Or will you stand by while the Krell destroy us?" The debate raged for hours. But outside the council chambers, in the streets and media networks of 1,000 worlds, public opinion was already shifting. Videos from Earth had gone viral across the galactic internet. Humans fighting impossible odds. A grandmother in London who had fought off 3 Krell soldiers with a kitchen knife to protect alien refugees. A pilot who had ejected from his damaged aircraft, then used his pistol to shoot at Krell fighters from his parachute. A futile gesture that nonetheless showed everything terrifying about Deathworld inhabitants. Humans didn't know when to quit. That was both admirable and absolutely terrifying. In the Himalayas, at altitudes where most council species would need pressure suits, a human resistance cell operated with casual efficiency. Lieutenant Helen Foster led her team across a snow-covered ridge. The altitude was 8,000 meters. The temperature was minus 30 degrees Celsius. The wind threatened to blow them off the mountainside. It was a Tuesday. "Krell patrol ahead," reported Sergeant David Miller. 6 enemies. They look like they're struggling. Helen raised her binoculars. The Krell soldiers were moving slowly, their breathing labored. At this altitude, oxygen was scarce. For humans evolved to survive at different elevations, it was manageable with time to adjust. For the Krell, evolved on a planet with thicker atmosphere, it was crippling. Standard ambush, Helen ordered. Make it quick. Her team moved into position with practiced ease. They had been operating at high altitude for 2 weeks now, and their bodies had adapted. More red blood cells. More efficient oxygen use. The same biological changes that allowed humans to climb Mount Everest without oxygen tanks. The Krell never stood a chance. Later, as Helen's team descended to their base camp, she thought about the strangeness of it all. For thousands of years, humans had struggled against their own planet. The cold, the heat, the altitude, the pressure. They had learned to survive in every environment Earth offered. Now that knowledge was a weapon. In the ruins of Tokyo, a different kind of warfare was unfolding. The Krell had taken the city center, establishing a fortified position. But they hadn't counted on human urban warfare tactics. Sergeant Richard Turner led his squad through the subway tunnels, moving beneath the Krell positions like ghosts. Behind them they planted explosives. Above them, Krell soldiers stood guard, unaware of the threat below. Fire in the hole, Richard whispered. The explosives detonated, collapsing 3 city blocks directly onto the Krell fortifications. The aliens scrambled to respond, but human forces poured in from every direction, from the tunnels, from the buildings, from the sewers. The battle for Tokyo became a perfect example of human urban warfare. Every building was a fortress. Every street was a trap. Every civilian a potential resistance fighter. The Krell retreated within days. In the council chambers, Alice Morgan presented the latest intelligence reports. The Krell invasion has stalled completely, she said. They control less than 8% of Earth's surface, and those positions are under constant attack. Their casualties exceed 60%. Meanwhile, human military production is accelerating. She brought up images of human factories, now running 24 hours a day. Weapons production. Ship construction. Everything happening at a pace that shocked the council representatives. How is this possible? The crystal-like Zephyr representative asked through light pulses. You achieved spaceflight mere decades ago. How can you match Krell production? We're Deathworlders, Alice said simply. We evolved to overcome impossible odds. That includes our industrial capacity. During our Second World War, humanity produced thousands of aircraft and millions of weapons, all while fighting a global conflict. We've been practicing for this. The peaceful Andorian delegate spoke hesitantly. But surely the cost in lives, the human casualties must be devastating? Alice's expression hardened. We're fighting for our survival. Our home. Yes, we've lost people. Good people. But we're still here. Still fighting. Because that's what humans do. We endure. The feeds showed more evidence of that endurance. A human medic treating wounded soldiers in a field hospital, working 36 hours straight. A pilot flying her 4th mission of the day. A squad of infantry holding a position against overwhelming odds simply because retreating wasn't an option they considered. Across the galaxy, species that had never seen real warfare watched in awe and terror. The Krell were one of the most militaristic empires in known space, and they were losing to a species that had just achieved interstellar travel. The Galactic Council finally voted. The Council recognizes Earth's right to self-defense, announced the speaker. Economic sanctions will be placed on the Krell hegemony. Council member states are authorized to provide humanitarian aid to Earth. It wasn't everything Alice had hoped for, but it was a start. In a secret research facility beneath the Atlantic Ocean, Dr. Oliver Grant made a breakthrough. We've successfully reverse-engineered the Krell hyperdrive, he announced to his team. There was a moment of stunned silence, then celebration. Human ships with functional faster-than-light drives. The strategic implications were enormous. How long until we can begin production? Asked Colonel Stevens through video link. 6 months for a test version, Oliver said. Another year for mass production. Not good enough. We need it in 3 months. Oliver started to protest, then stopped. He looked at his team, engineers who had been working 100-hour weeks, surviving on coffee and determination. They were exhausted. They were brilliant. And they were human. We'll have it in 3 months, Oliver promised. Because that's what Deathworlders did. They achieved the impossible, then did it again faster. Admiral Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at casualty reports that should have been impossible. 8 weeks into what was supposed to be a 3-day operation, the Krell hegemony had lost 63% of its invasion force. Status of ground operations? He asked, though he already knew the answer would be bad. All fronts are in retreat, sir, his tactical officer reported. The humans have begun coordinated counteroffensives. They're not just defending anymore. They're hunting us. Vex pulled up the battle map. Red markers showed Krell positions, isolated pockets surrounded by human forces. What had started as an invasion had become a siege, with the Krell as the trapped ones. They're using tactics we've never encountered, the tactical officer continued. Unusual warfare. Mental operations. They broadcast our casualties on every frequency. They leave our dead in places where our patrols will find them. They're breaking our soldiers' will to fight. That's barbaric, Vex muttered. Yes, sir. But it's effective. We're seeing mass surrenders in some areas. Entire companies refusing to fight. A new alert flashed on the display. Vex's jaw parts clicked in alarm. What is that? Human fleet, sir. They're launching from Earth. 12 capital ships, 40 escorts. They're heading for our orbital positions. 12 capital ships? They didn't have any capital ships a month ago. They built them, sir. In underground shipyards. Using salvage technology from our crashed vessels. Vex watched the human fleet rise from Earth's atmosphere. The ships were ugly, uneven things, clearly rushed into production. But they were armed with a mixture of human and Krell weapons, and their crews had spent the last 2 months watching, learning, and adapting. All ships, battle stations, Vex ordered. We can still win this engagement. But even as he said it, he wasn't sure he believed it anymore. Captain Marcus Fletcher stood on the bridge of the UHMS Defiance, Earth's first true warship. She had been built in 60 days, using every shortcut and innovation human engineers could devise. She wasn't pretty, but she was deadly. All ships, this is Fletcher. Execute attack pattern Delta. The human fleet didn't fight like the Krell expected. They didn't form up in neat battle lines. They didn't engage in the traditional exchange of fire at maximum range. Instead, they scattered, coming at the Krell fleet from multiple directions. Some ships hung back, providing fire support. Others charged straight in, using their weaker shields and armor as an advantage. The Krell wouldn't expect such aggressive tactics from damaged vessels. The Defiance was in the charging group. Marcus aimed his ship at a Krell cruiser and opened fire with everything he had. Railguns, missiles, laser batteries, even an experimental plasma cannon that had a 30% chance of exploding when fired. Brace for impact, he called out. The Defiance rammed the Krell cruiser at 1/10 light speed. Both ships were destroyed instantly. But in that moment, Marcus and his crew bought Earth precious time and knocked out one of the Krell fleet's most dangerous vessels. Lieutenant Emma Grant, now in command of the rebuilt Stellar Harmony, watched the sacrifice with grim determination. All weapons target the flagship. For Captain Fletcher. For Earth. On the ground, the counteroffensive was in full swing. In what remained of New York City, Colonel Jack Stevens personally led the assault on the Krell Command Center. His forces moved through the ruined streets with practiced efficiency. Urban warfare specialists trained for this exact scenario. Breach Team Go. Private Lucy Adams, promoted after her actions in the Amazon, planted explosives on the Krell bunker door. The explosion blew it inward and human soldiers poured through. The Krell fought desperately, but they were unprepared for the intensity of the assault. Humans moving with speed and coordination that seemed impossible. Humans fighting through injuries that should have stopped them. Humans driven by 2 months of occupation and anger. The Krell Command Center fell in 40 minutes. Jack stood in the ruins looking at the captured Krell officers. They stared at him with what the translator identified as fear and confusion. Send a message to Admiral Vex, Jack said. Tell him we want to negotiate. We're willing to accept his surrender. The Krell officer's translator sputtered. You're offering us terms? Yes. Because unlike you, we understand mercy. Jack's expression was hard. But it's a one-time offer. Surrender now or we keep coming. And Deathworlders don't stop. In orbit, the battle was turning decisively against the Krell. The human ships, though inferior in technology, fought with a ferocity that was breaking Krell morale. Every time a Krell ship destroyed a human vessel, 2 more took its place. Admiral Vex watched his fleet crumbling around him. His officers were reporting panic on multiple ships. His ground forces were in full retreat. And now the humans were offering him surrender terms. The irony wasn't lost on him. The Krell had come to conquer a primitive world. Instead, they were being defeated by creatures who had turned their own planet's hostility into military doctrine. "Open a channel to the human commander," Vex said quietly. His bridge crew stared at him in shock. "Sir, you can't be serious." "I said open the channel." Vex's voice cracked like a whip. "We've lost. Continuing this fight will only waste more Krell lives." The screen flickered, and Colonel Jack Stevens appeared. Behind him, human soldiers stood at attention, their weapons ready but not pointed. "Admiral Vex," Jack said calmly, "are you prepared to discuss terms?" Vex felt the weight of defeat settle on his shoulders. "Yes. On behalf of the Krell hegemony, I am authorized to negotiate a ceasefire." "Not a ceasefire," Jack corrected. "A surrender. Complete withdrawal from Earth and its orbital space. Reparations for the damage you've caused. And a formal apology to the Galactic Council for attacking their diplomatic mission." Every term was a humiliation. But Vex knew he had no choice. The alternative was total destruction. "Agreed," he said quietly. Across Earth the news spread like wildfire. The Krell were surrendering. The invasion was over. Humanity had won. In the council chambers on Valona Prime, Representative Alice Morgan received the news with quiet satisfaction. Around her, alien diplomats who had doubted Earth's ability to survive were now looking at humanity with new respect. And a little fear. Because Earth had just proven something the galaxy would never forget. Deathworlders weren't just survivors. When pushed, they were conquerors. The Peace Summit took place on neutral ground, aboard a massive council station orbiting a lifeless moon. Representatives from Earth, the Krell hegemony, and the Galactic Council gathered in a chamber designed to accommodate hundreds of different species. Admiral Vex stood on one side of the negotiating table, his posture showing defeat. Across from him, Colonel Jack Stevens represented Earth, flanked by Representative Alice Morgan. High Diplomat Theron sat between them as mediator. "The terms are non-negotiable," Alice stated firmly. "Full withdrawal of all Krell forces from Earth within 30 days. Payment of reparations equivalent to 2 trillion credits for reconstruction. A formal apology to both Earth and the Galactic Council. And most importantly, a non-aggression treaty lasting 100 years. Vex's mandibles clicked in frustration. "These terms are harsh." "You invaded our world without provocation," Jack said coldly. "You killed thousands of our people. You attempted to enslave us. These terms are merciful compared to what we could demand." Theron intervened smoothly. "The Council supports Earth's position. The Krell hegemony violated multiple galactic laws. You should consider yourselves fortunate that humanity is offering peace at all." Vex looked at the human representatives. 2 months ago he had viewed them as primitives. Now he understood the truth. Humans were Deathworlders, and Deathworlders were not to be underestimated. "The Krell hegemony accepts these terms," Vex said finally. The treaty was signed within the hour. As Vex departed, he paused and looked at Jack. "Your species is dangerous, Colonel. The galaxy should fear you." Jack met his gaze steadily. "We don't want to be feared. We want to be left in peace. But if attacked again, we'll respond the same way. Remember that." 3 months after the treaty signing, Earth was undergoing rapid transformation. The Krell reparations had funded massive reconstruction efforts. Cities were being rebuilt with a mixture of human and salvaged alien technology. Orbital platforms ringed the planet, a permanent defense network. But the biggest changes were in how Earth related to the wider galaxy. Dr. Hannah Price stood in the new Galactic Relations Center in Geneva, greeting the first wave of alien tourists to Earth. They were a mixed group, Valinans and Dorians, even a few brave Zephans. All of them had come to see the famous Deathworld. "Welcome to Earth," Hannah said warmly. "Please remember the safety guidelines. Our gravity is higher than standard. Our bacteria can be dangerous to some species, so keep your immune boosters active. And please don't try to lift heavy objects or eat local food without checking with us first." A young Valinan scientist named Petra looked around with wide eyes. "This is amazing. Your sky is so blue. And the oxygen content, I can actually feel it energizing me." "Just don't overexert yourself," Hannah warned. "Many visitors get dizzy from the oxygen levels. Take it slow." Over the following weeks, Earth became an unlikely tourist destination. Aliens came to experience the thrill of a Class 15 Deathworld in relative safety. They marveled at Earth's diverse ecosystems. They watched in amazement as humans casually did things that would be impossible on their homeworlds, lifting heavy objects, running long distances, eating foods that would be toxic to most species. The cultural exchange went both ways. Humans learned about galactic technology, art, and philosophy. They discovered they had much to offer in return: resilience, adaptability, and a unique perspective shaped by their harsh world. Lieutenant Helen Foster, now working as a liaison officer, found herself giving a tour to a group of Krell military observers. It was awkward at first. These were former enemies after all. But the Krell had specifically requested to understand human military doctrine. "Your tactics during the war," one Krell officer said. "The ambushes, the psychological operations, the refusal to surrender even in hopeless situations. We had no reference for such behavior." Helen nodded. "It's how we've always fought. On Earth, survival often meant being more stubborn than whatever was trying to kill you. We applied that same principle to warfare. It's terrifying," the officer admitted, "but also effective. Our military academies are now studying human tactics. With your permission, of course." "Of course," Helen said. "We'd rather teach you than fight you again." In orbit, the joint Human Council colony ship Horizons prepared for launch. It was a massive vessel built with combined technology from a dozen species. Its destination was a newly discovered system on the galactic rim, suitable for colonization. Captain Emma Grant stood on the bridge looking at her diverse crew. Humans, Valinans, Andorians, and yes, even a few Krell who had defected during the war. They had all volunteered for this mission, to build something new together. "All stations report ready," her first officer reported. "Excellent," Emma said. "Prepare for hyperspace jump." As the ship's engines powered up, Emma thought about how much had changed in just 6 months. Earth had gone from an isolated world on the edge of space to a full member of the Galactic Council. Humans had proven themselves in the crucible of war. But more importantly, they had proven they could be more than warriors. They could be explorers, diplomats, friends. Jumping in 3, 1. The Horizons leaped into hyperspace, carrying its mixed crew toward the unknown. Back on Earth, in a small park in London, an unusual sight could be seen. A human child named Thomas played with a young Krell named Vic. They were chasing each other around the playground, laughing in their respective ways. Thomas's grandmother, the same woman who had fought off Krell soldiers during the invasion, watched from a bench. Next to her sat Vic's parent, a Krell civilian who had chosen to remain on Earth after the war. "Your grandchild is very energetic," the Krell parent observed. "So is yours," the grandmother replied with a smile. "They're good for each other." "I never thought I would live on a death world," the Krell admitted. "But it's not as terrible as I expected. Your people have been kind. We've learned that yesterday's enemies can become tomorrow's friends," the grandmother said. "It's one of humanity's better traits." In the Galactic Council chambers, Representative Alice Morgan stood before the full assembly once more. But this time she wore the formal robes of a full council member. Earth's probationary period had been waived in recognition of their defense against the Krell. "Honored representatives," Alice began, "Earth stands ready to contribute to the greater galactic community. We bring our unique perspective as Deathworlders, our technological innovations, and our commitment to peaceful cooperation. But we also bring a warning." The chamber fell silent. "We are proof that even the most unlikely species can rise to defend themselves. We are proof that underestimating others is dangerous. And we are proof that diversity, even uncomfortable diversity, makes us all stronger." Alice paused. "Earth pledges to work with all of you to build a safer, more just galaxy. Together." The vote was unanimous. Earth was formally welcomed into the Galactic Council. That night, across Earth and 1,000 alien worlds, people looked up at the stars with new understanding. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders. And now, one small blue death world had claimed its place among them. Not through conquest. Not through domination. But through the simple stubborn refusal to give up that had always defined humanity. The age of isolation was over. The age of cooperation had begun.